What's going on, folks? Welcome to the bar. Today we're going to be talking about Kaiju Number 8, Chapter 11. If you're not caught up, be sure to go read the latest chapter and then head on back. This week's chapter has Kafka adjusting to military life, living in the barracks, and it seems to be the season for making rivals. So do me a solid and hit that subscribe button, and let's go grab a drink. Okay, so Chapter 11 starts off with the new recruits training to draw out more power from their suits. The beginning of the chapter primarily focuses on Reno, and Reno has been busting his ass. When we last saw him 2 months ago during the entrance exam, he could only draw out a meager 8%. But now, Reno's able to actually keep up with these star students. He's able to draw out 18%. And as all the recruits banter back and forth about how their power levels are growing and how Kikuru's percentage is still way ahead of everybody else's, we see that Kafka is busting his ass and he's finally gone from 0 to 1%. And Kafka is super proud about that 1%. He turns around and he's looking at Kikuru and he's like, "Look at me, lady, praise me!" Vice Captain Hoshina appears and lets Kafka know that if he doesn't increase his power level in 3 months and rise to officer, he'll be out. Now, a quick little sidebar here. We've seen that Kaiju Number 8 is jumping around, and 3 months can honestly just be the next chapter. But the big takeaway that I see is that Hoshina thinks that he'll be able to solve the mystery of Kafka in 3 months or less. This also isn't downplaying the fact that someone like Kafka will probably reveal himself if the squad of kids get in jeopardy. But back to the chapter. The next page has the Vice Captain making the recruits run 15 laps because they were running their mouths. Before that though, we see Reno looking at Kafka getting reamed out by the Vice Captain with insults. He smiles at him, seeing his buddy trying his damned hardest and actually succeeding. I know, I rant on and on about this every time I see it, but I love the fact that Reno looks at Kafka like a rival, but at the same time, Reno is somebody that Kafka genuinely shows respect to. Hoshina's assistant then appears and quips that the recruits this year are really pushing each other, to which Hoshina replies that even when he's not around, they're busting each other's asses. Then the chapter moves to a hot spring bathhouse location somewhere inside the barracks. Everybody's relaxing and Reno's getting made fun of because he doesn't have any muscles, but then at the same time Reno's throwing it back in Furuhashi's face by saying they pretty much weigh the same amount, meaning they're pretty much at the same strength. Kafka then tells the two boys to shut up because this is what a real man's body looks like, and he flexes and actually causes Furuhashi to be like, "Oh man, check out that man bod." But just like everyone else after the age of 28, we let it go and we get a dad bod. Iharu, who I've been referring to as Furuhashi, then guns on Kafka, and even Reno struggles to contain his laughter. Then Kaguragi shows up and literally silences the entire room because that dude is the definition of shredded. Kafka then leans back and looks up at the sky and relaxes and kind of thinks to himself that it's been a very long time since he's really done like anything like this before. His thoughts are broken up by Furuhashi asking everybody why they joined the defense force, and pretty much every single recruit says their reason for joining is because of Mina. Whether she's been their idol or consider her their superhero, to somebody like Kafka, Mina's always been just his best friend from childhood. The kids eventually ask Kafka why he joined, and he lets them know they're childhood friends. This sends the recruits into a frenzy where they need to know every last detail about the childhood promise they made as a kid. Kafka tells him what he can, but apparently it took a little too long because the next page has the ladies leaving the bathhouse, and what do they see? The boy recruits and Kafka passed out on the floor. So the last little bit of the chapter is reserved for Kafka. We see all of the recruits passed out sleeping, and then we see Kafka laid up at night studying in the library. I don't want to say this represents the older head mentality, and don't get me wrong here, I'm not trying to say that an 18-year-old wouldn't stay up late to bust their ass to get work done. But this is different. This is Kafka staying up late to get work done so he doesn't get left behind. This is his dedication. He sees all of these kids that for all intents and purposes are almost 15 years younger than him as officers. We know that from before, Kafka really likes to think of himself as a role model to people, especially the younger generation. So he sees himself as a role model to these kids, so he wants to be better for them too. Granted, yeah, his squad leader has an ulterior motive, but for right now, he has a very unique opportunity to prove himself, and at the same time practice with arguably the best recruits of their time. So fuck yeah, grab a coffee and hit the books, homie. We see Kafka sitting in the library and he remembers the words that the vice captain said to him. But, like suspicious clockwork, as soon as he thinks about the guy, he appears. He tells Kafka that sleep is an essential part of the job too, and Kafka looks away and states that he can't afford to be cut from the defense force again. The vice captain quips, "Why?" Because of Mina? To which it kind of shocks Kafka because he's trying to figure out why he even knows that reason. I mean, despite the fact that he did shout it out at the graduation ceremony, it turns out that they do not have any privacy whatsoever in the dorms. Any conversation that they have is free game for all. So now if you wanted a true hefty dosage of foreshadowing, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is right here. If Kikoru rolls up on Kafka and starts asking these questions inside of the barracks, he's got to get out of there immediately. Any slip up, any mentioning whatsoever is going to set the vice captain off and he's going to figure out what the fuck is going on. But with that being said, Kafka says that he has a promise to keep and he said that he would fight by her side. The vice captain says, well, I guess if you want that, that means you're coming for my job. And we see Kafka kind of walk back his words real quick, but then he realizes, no, there actually is no walking back these words. He has every single intention of taking Hoshina's job. And Hoshina gets a little bit twisted with Kafka and says you're on, and he officially accepts him as his rival. And as he drops off the keys to the library telling Kafka that he's got 2 more hours, the sly vice captain tells him that he has no intention of forking over his place anytime soon. And as he walks out, he looks at him and says, a word to the wise here. Don't get too buddy-buddy with the people that you're around. Anything could happen at any moment. And right as he says that, he pretty much curses the moment because a siren begins to sound. A kaiju has emerged. The officers begin to spring up out of bed, well, I guess most of them do at least, and Hoshina looks at Kafka and tells him, it's time for your first mission, cadet. And that's the end of the chapter. I really enjoyed this one. It ended up being a lot of dialogue, but I really didn't care. I mean, in my opinion, when a story knows how to keep you compelled when it's just dialogue, you're doing a great job. I'm really enjoying the fact that Reno is building other rivals besides Kafka, and I don't want to say that they're out of each other's leagues now, but Kafka is, part kaiju, and I would rather if Reno compared himself to actual recruits. Also, everybody keeps warning Kafka and telling him not to get close to the people that he's around, and I really hope that this mission doesn't kill off Reno. Look, I know that was a bold statement to say, and I don't want to say that Reno isn't crucial to the plot, but he doesn't really have any stakes in the story besides being somebody that Kafka has an emotional attachment to. This manga has only been going on for 11 chapters, so for all we know, it could possibly get pretty dark for all we know. But yeah, before we start talking about what might happen in the next chapter, I really want to talk about some of the relationships among characters, particularly Vice Captain Hoshina and Cadet Kafka. While Reno is out here being a rival to the 4 other star recruits, we got Kafka. What's this guy managed to do? He manages to make a rival of the squad leader, the vice captain. I have a feeling that this guy could be a dude that everybody loves or hates, but the story is so new that we don't even know who the main bad guy of the series is. And I guess, with that, we're kind of moving towards the prediction for the next chapter, but I am nervous that the squad is headed to the site of the disposal team. Last time the humanoid kaiju appeared was 2 months ago after the entrance exam. And look, the odds are it could be just a normal kaiju that shows up and could be a learning experience for the squad. But there is the possibility that this mission moves the plot and it could be an absolute massacre where a bunch of recruits possibly die. I really don't want the moment yet when Reno is about to be killed and he's looking at Kafka not to reveal himself, but Kafka does it anyway because he doesn't want Reno to die. Either way, that's something I definitely see happening in the future to somebody, at least to an extent. Kafka is the type of guy that he isn't going to let someone die if he knows that he can save them. There's a lot coming from Kaiju Number 8 in the coming weeks, and next week, though, there isn't going to be a chapter. They take a break after 3 weeks. It's good to give your artist a break every now and then. It kind of helps the art stay good. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Be sure to hit that like button for more Kaiju Number 8 content, and we're going to be getting into streaming, so make sure you follow me on Twitch over at The Bacon Temptation. And this is Dan, signing off. Peace.